All right. So I was told last week when I was scheduling this interview, you guys had a couple of announcements coming up. In between then and now came the workplace announcement. So you're now doing MDR for Google Workspace in addition to M365. Just tell me a little bit about the significance of that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you follow hackers over the years, they pretty much target consistently authentication and authorization platforms, right? And so if you kind of take a look at IT as it's evolved, you always had a lot of this on-prem Windows domain. COVID happened. We were all scared, but it was great for the MSP market, and it forced a lot of movement to the cloud, right? And so what's happened here is the attack surface in 365 and these other platforms is actually quite large, larger than I think a lot of the security community knows, and larger than a lot of the bad guys know. But the knowledge is now converging. And we're seeing, for example, in the past week, we did 99 Microsoft 365 saves in 7 days, 12 mass ransom saves. So just to give you an order of magnitude. And so the 365 attack surface, we've had a lot of success. We're the first company in the world doing MDR in Microsoft 365, and now we're the first one doing it for Google Workspace. The demand signal from the MSP community really came through the K through 12. So if you think about it, a lot of schools are kind of Windows domain running their infrastructure, Chromebooks and kind of Google Workspace for the students. And so that was a huge attack surface that has basically just been left, kind of unprotected. So that's why we came out with this. The other thing we announced as well is we call it identity response. It was kind of add-on to our Microsoft 365 product. Azure AD, Active Directory, and 365 are very closely related, but still a little bit different. And what's going on is there's a big push, obviously, for single sign-on services to be put in front of your RMMs. I mean, you name it. Your most critical IT assets are now sitting behind single sign services. Naturally, attackers are going to go there. Like probably a third of our cloud responses are MFA bypasses actually successful. So that's something where I think everyone thought MFA is on. It's undefeatable. It's not the case. It's definitely, you have to have it. It's better. But what's going on now is we had to protect that identity side. So we're the first company in the world doing single sign-on MDR as well. To me, when you look at most organizations today have an on-prem component and a cloud component. And if you're going to be elite at doing managed detection and response, you have to be able to hit both. I think it was actually a pretty cool case study. We made a video on it, but we did a save the other week where a hacker basically broke into Azure AD. We picked it up with this new product. And as we were doing the response, they used really a remediation engine for patching and things like that to deploy ransomware or malware down on-prem. So we caught it on both sides. But if you think about that, that's like a pretty cool use case when you're hitting a cloud environment to get to on-prem ransom. So the game, you really have, these two systems have to be intertwined now as one. That's where the game is going.
Out of curiosity, you said 99 365 saves in the past week, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, compare that to a typical week. What's the trend line looking like?
Well, it's a little tricky because we're selling a ton of it, so it's obviously going up a lot. But I can tell you, like percentage-wise, it's increased about 65% in the last year if you normalize the growth.
Yeah.
So it's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, when you break into a cloud environment, it's almost always the business email compromise to trick an org to wire money. Where ransomware, they have to do a lot more work, right? It takes a little bit longer. You got to get on all the machines. You got to laterally spread, ransom, collect payment. So I think we're finding it's just a path of less resistance that can still get a really good payout, and you have less back and forth, going on with the victim.
You said the initial use case for the workspace functionality was K through 12.
Yeah.
But how much demand for, how many requests have you gotten for workspace support, just more generally than that, from MSPs?
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at who uses these types of products. K through 12, huge use case, right? It makes sense with all the Chromebooks. But then you have those orgs that are maybe more the Slack, Google Workspace type orgs versus the 365. So you do get some requests from them. They tend to be upmarket more, like kind of more medium enterprise and up. But I think, at least in the MSP space, I would say, probably 80% of the demand seems to be coming through schools and things like that.
Either near term or longer term, I guess. Do you have any plans to add additional SaaS platforms to the MDR service?
We definitely do. Yeah. I can't mention the ones that are kind of coming next. Obviously, we just released Google and Identity Response for Microsoft, but we are going to continue investing in securing the kind of cloud side. The adoption's moving that way. There's always going to be an on-prem component, but there are some companies now that are nothing more than Wi-Fi computers and everything hosted in the cloud, right? And so if we're not securing that, we're leaving like a huge attack surface not covered. And so we're going to continue to be adding more and more cloud services for sure.
So the Microsoft 365 protection, the workspace protection, as I understand it, they're both part of Cloud Response,
correct,
which is bundled into Blackpoint Response.
Correct. Yeah.
And so it's all one subscription, no incremental charges, et cetera.
Correct. Yeah. Really at the end of the day, we believe where this market is going as an ecosystem play. If you think about an MSP and you talk about their pain in the business, front of the funnel lead generation, kind of post-sales customer success. When you layer on trying to understand the security ecosystem, upsell those, assemble all of that, that's taking an MSP away from automation on IT, hiring an IT, doing their own outbound lead prospecting and conversion and customer success after. So our whole kind of reason as a company we're going this ecosystem play is we want to give an MSP as close to a one-stop shop, pretty much hands-off security play. So we take care of that and do that at an elite level. And we teach them how to have a security-first go-to-market approach where it's built in, it's not being upsold, so they have time to focus on what they do best. And to us, that's where this market's going, and it's a natural partnership between us and our MSP partners.
So I was going to ask you what else is in the Blackpoint Response bundle, but that's kind of a perfect lead-in.
Yeah.
So I mean, tell me how much of that ecosystem play is in place now, presumably in that bundle, and what else is coming?
So we have MDR for Windows and Mac, virtual machine, physical. We have MDR for Microsoft 365. We have Identity Response for Azure AD, which is kind of an extension of that capability. We have Cloud Response for Google Workspace. We have external vulnerability scanning. We have a whole cloud hygiene tool that maps your 365 configurations to Center for Internet Security. So a big part of security is reducing your attack surface. So that goes to that front. And several months ago, we released application control as well. So there's a trend in this market, right? You can specifically with application control. We took an approach where we run a full-time threat intelligence team called our Adversary Pursuit Group, and in partnership with our Threat Ops Center. We're selecting and monitoring all the tools we're watching the bad guys use, and the big trend is live off the land dual-use tools where they use IT. So Black Hat ransomware, the ransomware that was ultimately delivered to MGM most recently. We've done a lot of public speaking on these guys, but they use free trials of RMMs, software, kind of scanning tools, deployment tools. If you think about it, at the end of the day, an IT professional is putting data on a computer, taking data off, and putting software on. What does a ransomware operator do? Puts his ransomware on, he wants to take data off to double extort you. And so we've been very, very focused on making sure that we can auto block those dual use cases while alerting our SOC so we can take a more active response. So all that is in the bundle. There is more coming. Our whole strategy is we think if done right, every MSP we go to should probably get cost savings by putting our bundle in and a lot less back office work. This is a thing that we see all the time in this space. Everyone gets fixated on the price per month or per, that they pay per endpoint. The problem is you don't always think about how much back office tax and work do I have to administer these products. So a huge part of our strategy is to make it really light touch. Like we're the only company in the world doing MDR that doesn't require reboots, right, to deploy their agents. So you see a lot of IR companies use this as a first in, kind of capability.
I'm trying to think of the other things that would go into a complete stack that might go into your ecosystem play. IAM, privilege access management, security awareness training came to mind.
Yeah, and dark web. Those are kind of like, you're starting to round it out there. We're generally, I've been going back and forth on the security awareness training, if I'm going to jump into that or not. I think you'll always watch Blackpoint at the highest level stay focused on active response or more automation and hygiene cleanup, right? Because if we can be the fastest, and we are the fastest in the world at response, but if we can do that while reducing the attack surface, it makes everyone's life a lot easier. I think those are kind of some core themes you'll always see us lean into.
So the other news,
Right.
the truly breaking news,
Yeah.
actually, is that you guys are now distributing through PAX 8.
Correct.
I actually met with members of your leadership team at the PAX 8 conference in June.
Excellent.
Where they told me that would be coming, and said that this is your first distribution relationship,
This
right?
is, yeah.
So why them? Why them first?
First off, PAX 8 is just an awesomely well-run company, and they're just a joy to work with, step one. So, two, they solve one of the single greatest pain points for MSPs, which is how do you manage billing and licensing at scale? You have 30, 40 tools. Not only it's hard enough to run one network, let alone 50 networks, and then you have all these different licensing models and billing on top. That burden on an MSP takes their eye totally off the ball and doing all the other good business practices. So to us, there was a real natural alignment. We integrate with every major EDR. They sell a lot of SentinelOne. They also sell a lot of Microsoft, and we support that. And so, I think it was just a real natural go-to-market alignment and product alignment for what they're doing. I think they're doing a great service for the MSP market, and we're more than excited to join forces with them so we can serve a much greater swath of the market.
How much can you tell? They said back in June, this is the first distributor you're signing with, but not the last. I mean, how much can you tell me about the others that you'll be?
So we have others in play, but I'll tell you, any other distributor really that we bring on, they're going to be targeting different segments of the market, right? So PAX 8, we're really looking at them to tackle, obviously, the MSP segment. But what a lot of folks don't know, we have actually zero sales force targeting it, but we do large enterprise. We do this for global airlines and some other large folks, which is nice because we get a lot more nation state activity in some of these larger enterprises. But we will be doing more, but they won't be overlapping.
So this is your one distribution relationship for MSPs?
Right now, we don't have any other planned in the near term for MSPs.
Beyond MSPs, are you looking at other distributors for other SMB-oriented, VARs, say?
I think what you'll kind of see, there's like segments in this market, right? So once you start getting to where the end customer is more like 1,000 to like 15,000 endpoints, you'll probably watch us start bringing on distributors to target that sort of phase. And I do have plans. I'm not looking to execute on them now. We have some more product roadmap stuff we want to implement, but we are definitely going to in the future, push into the MSSP space. We think we have a really disruptive platform. If you really look at it, what's going on in the MSSP space, everything is SIEM-based. And then you have all these other tools you layer on. The reality is we love SIEMs. They're great for compliance. They've never proven to be that effective for line rate response ops that saves you before you get ransomware. And so we believe much more in a fully like orchestrated like SOAR type platform. That's kind of what we are out of the box. I think there's an opportunity where the MSSP stack has gotten expensive and bloated, and there's a lot of appetite to slim that thing down so it actually works while still checking all the requisite compliance boxes.
Often when I talk to an MDR vendor who works with MSSPs, they have different models basically, and with the MSSP, they're essentially selling the platform. The MSSP is running the platform in its own SOC, and so that would be kind of.
So we're toying with two models: a platform as a service model, which I think would be really effective. The other real question is, if you're an MSSP and you're really looking at your spend, right? When you have to kind of assemble all these tools, it requires you to have higher-end analysts because they're really hard to use and correlate. So we're on the fence if we're going to go full-out platform as a service, train them. That's a totally different sales and training motion. Or is it something where it's combined. Maybe we take the night shift off where they struggle to get the, the level of talent that you need. So I think the jury's still out. I definitely have desires to move into the platform as a service. The real question is, what is the kind of lever on the business, kind of fundamentals? Is it going to say, hey, actually our real benefit is we really offset a lot of labor for you guys and make it work? So I don't know that answer just yet, but everything we're doing in the design of our platform, our single sign, everything we use is designed so it can be a platform as a service play if required.
For what it's worth, Sophos does both.
Yeah.
You have three choices. We can do everything for you, we can do nothing for you but give you the software, or there can be a sort of shared responsibility in the middle.
And so that's what I don't know yet, TBD, we'll see. I'm excited though, but we have plenty of work to do in MSP before we open another front.
You may or may not have an answer to this, but when I was at the PAX 8 show, PAX 8 announced this big marketplace initiative that they have going. And there was a lot going on there, and they kind of dumped it on everybody all at once. And so I was asking a lot of the partners, the vendors there, are you going to engage in this marketplace? What do you think? And most of them said, I don't know yet. Like, I'm still processing, digesting all that information. It's been a few months. I don't know. How familiar are you with where they're going, and what do you think about it?
I think it's a no-brainer move. I mean, there's other distributors out there that have done a very similar play in a different cohort of customers. I think a lot of disties, forget PAX 8 for a second, a lot of disties writ large, yes, they're still going to be selling boxes and all your appliances and stuff, but I think they're all looking for more recurring revenue subscription-based models. A marketplace plus like something like we sell this bundle or is really natural. In fact, PAX 8 is going to be selling our cloud response as a standalone SKU. We haven't even done that yet. So they're going to have the standalone SKU and the bundle because we just feel like that's a fast way and a low cost entry to get adoption of Protect Your Cloud up front if you're buying Microsoft 365. So I think when you get in this type of selling motion, these marketplaces make a lot of sense.
I forget the timing right now, but you guys got $190 million of funding relatively recently.
Yeah, I think back in May. Yeah.
So quite recently.
Yeah.
And we've talked about some of the ways you're deploying that money already. Yeah. I mean, what else can you tell me about what that will enable?
Yeah, so I would say, obviously, I think we tripled the size of our engineering team this year, even though we had a multi-year, in my opinion, tech lead on our competition. We're going to continue to push the envelope on that, but I would say the area that you're going to see a lot more investment out of Blackpoint is in our community. We have not invested a lot in, historically, in everything we can do to support our MSP partners to help them grow and train, educate. That will be done under our Blackpoint University kind of banner. So we are in the process of building up a whole team for that. Obviously, our kind of channel and distribution, those teams are being built. I think we've hired 90 people already this year, and probably another 60 to go.
Just for the distribution?
No, but just for our company in general. But the distribution side, we're definitely building up that muscle. And it's really just rounding out our whole leadership board and structure, but a lot on partner enablement, a lot on community, and obviously just all the digital sales and marketing that comes with it that we need to continue to invest in.
So it occurs to me, last question here that just popped into my head now.
Sure.
We're at a Datto event, but that makes it a Kaseya event as well. We were talking about RMM and how that gets involved in breaches and so on. And a few years back, Kaseya famously got involved, swept up in that kind of a thing. And I'm not singling out Kaseya or Datto, just in general, how impressed are you, how pleased are you by the degree to which the RMM vendors out there are taking security of their products seriously?
We know them well, and I like to think we have a pretty damn good relationship with the RMM vendors. We're not guys that troll people in public. Listen, everyone, when you have a one-to-many software platform where you can deploy any piece of software, of course hackers are going to be interested in it. I mean, they're going to be interested in it. I think if you look at almost every piece of software out there, there's vulnerabilities somewhere in it. And so it really comes down to what are the most high consequence outcomes and what type of software can do that. Obviously RMMs, because they can deploy software, are up there. what I've watched, and I was on stage at Right Boom. I complimented Kaseya because when that event was unfolding, because we were right on top of that sucker. I think 10:40 in the morning that Friday. We didn't know if it was cloud or on-prem, right? And so Kaseya made a move where they shut their cloud down, which was brilliant because it allowed us. We didn't have anyone mass ransomed in that attack at all, which was amazing. But we were able to go proactively take off all those servers. I watched all the vendors greatly increase their attention. Does that mean there's not going to be another event? Absolutely not. One of the challenges is ransomware is great force projection, even for foreign intelligence services. And where that line is between like criminal making money and causing damage, I would argue the Russians could have caused a hell of a lot more damage, assuming it was them on the Kaseya event, if they went slower. They just ransomed everything right away. They didn't even steal data. That could have been a much, much worse outcome, I think. But I'm pretty pleased. Are we there yet? No, I don't think so. But I think all the companies realize how existential it is to have a lot of issues on your RMM side. So, listen. Unfortunately, like something will happen again. It might be backup software. It might be something else. We don't know. The key is, can you put security controls in place, the ability to respond to limit the blast radius if it does, right? And pay it ahead, do bug bounty programs. I would say one area of investment that is just critical, and I know the RMMs are doing it, is a lot more application penetration testing, which is really kind of almost like reverse engineering the application like a hack would do, looking for exploits or code execution techniques to reduce that attack surface.
Do you have any advice for the RMM vendors and or the MSPs about on-prem versus cloud-based RMM?
Yeah, it's so weird. You can have the same issue in the cloud you can have on-prem. What I can tell you is the companies that are still mostly on-prem, that have traditional remote access, that are running DMZs, they get ransomed more often than a much more cloud-heavy. And it's just because it's easy to mess up firewall rules. Like if you look at the MOVEit vulnerability, if you look at the 3CX vulnerability, you look at the Exchange vulnerability, none of those would have happened if you ran zero trust network access and had that stuff in the cloud. So I think my advice is we should move on-prem to a model where there's absolutely nothing listening on the boundary. Because if you look at a lot of the exploits and vulnerabilities coming out, they're all targeting VPN firewalls, right? This is what blew up the cyber insurance market for MSPs. There's a lot of vulnerabilities on some remote access appliances in 2019, 2020 that allows a hacker to get onto basically the VPN concentrator. What do you point that to for authentication? Active Directory. Who's VPNing all the time? Your Windows domain admins. So the bad guys walked in as Windows domain admin, no malware yet. So there's nothing for an EDR to detect. That's why we were so successful, because we see all the lateral movement in combating this stuff. So it's a long-winded way of saying the MSPs have to pursue a cloud-first approach, but realize just because it moved to the cloud doesn't mean the attack surface is just changing. And I think it reduces your ransomware risk a bit. But now there's going to be other types of attack vectors like business email compromise, financial fraud, and things like that. So you just have to go in eyes wide open. I would, as an industry, like to see a lot more hardware tokens used to authorize like mass deployment of software in RMMs. I think that would be an interesting, kind of add-on our industry could do better with.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you.